working with clients, what I like to teach them is that we're going to find out a tool that you can use for the rest of your life. Because after they go through this process, 95% of these foods will come back after we heal the gut. And we're going to find out that 5% that is creating the inflammation that's leading to disease as you get older. I feel people 90 and 100 should be thinking and have the memory they had at 30. And you know, that's because if you don't cause inflammation and destruction of the brain through the foods that you're eating, you should be able to not have memory loss and all the diseases that we suffer from that. And so, you know, we get these foods back and you learn a tool of what you can take into your many years into your life and not have to experience all these diseases that people have today. The gluten is in your wheat, barley, rye, all those kinds of things. And what has happened over the last 50 years is we have increased our gluten by 70%. So in other words, we have genetically modified our wheat. If you look at a stick of wheat or a piece of wheat from 50 years ago, it's not going to look like the wheat that we have today. Gluten is glue, and the gluten is a protein that we were not, as caveman did not eat grains, okay? And so what has happened is our bodies are not able to break down the amount of gluten that we have here in the United States. And gluten is also that genetically you can be predisposed to gluten intolerance through the genes that you carry. And people who have these genes, which is 90% of the population, they can be turned on or not turned on. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. Some people go through their whole life and never have an effect. But some people it turns on, and when these turn on, you can turn on autoimmune in the body. So this is where a lot of issues have become because of gluten. When gluten actually has an effect on these villi. And when they shrivel up like this, at the end of these villi is where you release the enzymes to break down dairy. And so what happens to a lot of people when they have this atrophy is they can't break the dairy proteins down anymore. So the dairy proteins become a problem, and they start their body builds up antibodies to the dairy, and they start reacting to the dairy as well. Sometimes there is just a dairy issue, but sometimes once you get the gut healed, they can go back to having dairy or a small amount. It all depends on the individual.
When it comes to milk, I see whole milk, 2%, half and half. Is there any kind of general recommendation about milk or soy milk or anything like that?
Yeah, well, the soy milk and milk, two different things. The first thing is we'll take cow's milk, goat milk, sheep milk, because those all have casein and whey. Casein and whey are the issues. Those are the proteins people can't break down. It doesn't matter if it's 2%, it doesn't matter if it's whole milk. It's the protein, it's the protein that's in the casein and whey that people have issue breaking down in their body. When you don't break down something, your body starts attacking it because it wants to break it down. It sees it as a foreign object. And so that's where people get these issues, inflammation, other things going on. Soy is something that unfortunately in our country we've adulterated as well, and so it's not like the soy they eat in Japan. And soy has a lot of effects. Years ago when I had a little baby, if you couldn't drink cow milk, you were given soy. And soy is a phytoestrogen, not something good to give to a male, okay, in those doses that we give a child formula. And so, soy also has effect on the thyroid. People that have thyroid issues should not be using soy. There's lots of reasons that I remove soy from the diet, but a lot of it is because our soy has been adulterated. It's not the product that we used to have. So we don't do soy milk. We do a lot of nut milks. If people can have nuts, that leads into a whole other thing. Some people have allergies to the toxins in nuts, so we have to look at that, and we look at that in the testing. But we use a lot of milks, almond milk, coconut milk, that kind of thing in the program.
What do the blood tests tell you about the foods that people can and can't eat?
What the blood test does is that when an individual's blood is put on all the different things that I talked about, 200 different foods, molds, chemicals, what will happen is the white blood cell of the blood actually has a reaction. The volume, size, and all this changes when they put the two together, that person's blood and an antigen and enzyme of that particular food. It actually, they're looking, you know, I'm not doing it, this is a lab that's doing it, they're watching for a reaction. There's also things in the immune system called cytokine markers, and that is how the immune system talks to itself, and they can see a reaction in the cytokines, and that's when they give me back a report. They're reporting what degree was that particular food reacting when they put that person's blood in that food, or that chemical like chlorine or fluoride, or formaldehyde, or these different things that are in the things that we're exposed to every day. I had a patient, a client, who had lupus, and we were doing the diet, and she was feeling well, and then all of a sudden she decided she was feeling much better, and she wanted to exercise, and she started swimming, and all of a sudden she got all of her symptoms back, and she had a high level of chlorine response on the test, and so every time she was going into the pool that was chlorinated, she was getting a response from the chlorine. So we took her and got her into a saltwater pool. Now she's exercising, but we determined what it was that was triggering her autoimmune. So that's it. So that's how the test works. It gives us a lot of information, gives us a foundation to build for each individual. People come in, I have a whole program that they go through. The testing is part of the program that I do. So when people come in, we talk on an individual basis about that. Yes?
How do you ever have anybody for dinner these days?
Well, and that's a lot of my clients ask me that. And, it's like and you start to, you wonder, okay, what can I do? But, it's for a period of time when you begin this, it's restricted. Because in the beginning, depending on how sick the person is or how many issues they have, their list may be long, like this young man, okay? But a lot of people, it's not that bad, and within 2 or 3 months, they're back eating a good portion of the foods. And there's a few foods they can't eat. I mean, I'm sure today there were people that didn't eat the salmon, there were people that didn't eat the chicken. Most of us, when we go to dinner with our friends, if they know that, especially my clients, most of my clients have got an issue. They've got something going on that has debilitated their life. And they explain to their friends, gosh, I'm working with a nutritionist right now, she's got me on this program. And most people are very good about saying, what is it that you can or cannot have? And it really is in general categories. I mean, most people can have a lot of the foods that are there. And when you go to a restaurant, when I use a menu, like say the asparagus is with the chicken and the broccoli's with the beef, and I want to have the chicken and the broccoli, I just, obviously they have it in the kitchen, I just make my own menu. I just say, can I have this and this? And I don't make a big deal of it. It's not like people sitting at the table going, oh God, there she goes again. People don't even know. I'm sitting talking to the waiter privately, and my dish comes and nobody even knows what's going on. I teach people how not to be a spectacle, because nobody wants to be the person that has all the issues. They don't want to be the pain in the butt, kind of thing. So we teach you how not to be that kind of person.